Hello, Sarah.
Hello, sorry about that.
Oh, don't worry. I was just explaining that you literally just landed in Portugal. We're very lucky to have you. So yeah, thanks for joining us on your holiday. And I was just explaining that for anybody who didn't join our live last month for National Single Parent Day, we promised that we'd get you back to chat all about your own journey using the sperm donor and just exactly what is involved because I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like it's a topic that is just not spoken about enough. And there are so many alternative ways to conceive, and you're an expert in this, so it'd be lovely just to hear, you know, I guess I know that I've spoken to a lot of people about this before you've come on,
Yes.
and actually one of the burning questions is probably just where do you even start if you're thinking about going down this route? And I guess that would be a really nice way to kick off if that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course. I think, it's hard. I think in my situation, I guess I needed to look at a route. I'd heard about obviously sperm donor clinics. I'd heard a couple of friends and contacts had gone to the States. I'd heard a few had mentioned, fertility clinics around the country, and I know a couple of them had a couple of friends had talked about that, and I think it's kind of word of mouth, isn't it? A lot of these things, and it's referrals, and it's just talking to friends and talking to contacts, and really, I mean, it's a long time ago, and you don't know where to start, and when you first start looking at all this, it's a complete minefield. It's it blows your head. How do you even go about looking to start this process? Where do you turn? And I think for me, it was literally a bit of information in magazines. And as I said, talking to friends or contacts in a similar situation. And I know some, as I said, had been to the United States. Others had been to Denmark. We ended up going to Cryos in Denmark, because with my partner at the time. And we looked at Cryos. And yeah, you kind of don't know, but just do a bit of research, do a bit of digging around. As I said, contacts, friends, that sort of thing, and that's kind of how it starts. And it still blows my mind now to think how little Milo's here and he's safe and he's healthy and he's well, but that whole concept of getting your head round, you don't know that person, you don't know that sperm donor. It's really hard. And I know when I was sort of 7-8 months pregnant, I did freak out about it a little bit. Do you sort of look to go down a really good sort of male friend route who might kindly donate sperm? It can be as crude as that. I'm sort of being quite blunt and open about it, but that's how it is. It's kind of, I'm in a same-sex relationship, I want to be a mum, what are my options? And I ended up wanting to go down the sperm donor route with Cryos in Denmark. And one of the main reasons for that was because I could get baby pictures. To be honest, there was a little bit more information, I felt, in Denmark than there perhaps would be, say, here in the UK.
Oh, well, that was actually something I was going to lead on to next. Like, obviously, you've touched on where do you even start? Like, looking on the internet, like speaking to people, word of mouth. But
Yeah.
for you then personally, can you just talk us through the start of your journey to finding that sperm donor?
Yeah, so I think once I've sort of decided, as I said, there've been a couple of articles as well. I think there's been a bit in the British press the last few years about kind of sort of Viking sperm donors. A lot of women, a lot of same-sex couples going to Scandinavia, going to Denmark, because exactly that they could find out more information about the sperm donor. There was a bit more knowledge, but information, as I said, the baby pictures, the family history, the background. And I think in Denmark as well, it's quite normal. It's, say, more normal than it is here in the UK. It's quite a common thing to do. And I think, but then it's like, then you start, so you sort of say, right, I'm going to go down this route, but where I need to look at, what am I looking for? And it's just trying to look at those characteristics. If you say, do you want the sperm donor, to be, what sort of educational standards are you looking at? Is he sporty? I think for me, the baby pictures, it felt like I could really that was really important for me. I wanted to know what he kind of looked like when he was a baby. And that was quite pivotal for me, really. And then it was just a case of, I mean, it's mad, isn't it? It's like online dating, you're trawling through
Yeah.
loads of profiles. It's the same thing. You are trawling through lots of information. You don't really know. You're just going along your best guess what some of the important characteristics are for you. and yeah, you just got to trust that, you know, they're a good, reputable clinic, which they are. They're great, good reputation, and that it all works out. And thankfully, you know, it did. The other thing I would say as well, which is quite important to me, I think they write a handwritten note, because I've still got his the sperm donor's profile on my phone saved under my iBooks. And they write a handwritten note, and that was quite touching for me as well, to think, you know, of course there's a commercial element for these donors. They're getting paid, and I know a lot of them are sort of young men who, you know, maybe in full-time education or whatever, maybe the money's really important, but, you know, the heartfelt message about wanting to sort of help people become parents was really touching, and I think I'll always look back at that, and you know, it's quite meaningful to me.
I bet. So obviously that's like you've taken us right through to the, you know, the detail of like choosing the
Sorry, yeah.
sperm. Does somebody from the beginning help you like chat about what's gonna happen, and like can anybody just go to like you know, Cryos and say, you know, I am looking for a sperm donor? Do you have to meet specific criteria to begin with?
No, I think obviously some of it was done through the clinic as well. I was with Care Fertility in London, so they obviously they can refer and recommend clinics as well. So that was really good. But yeah, it's just a case of going along and basically you're buying it, you're buying the sperm, and that's it. So it's just choosing it. It sounds bizarre, but it's almost like you don't want to think about it too much in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, what was the experience like for you emotionally? Because I guess you could, if you really thought about it, you could probably get yourself, like, you know, like you said, you freaked out about it at 8 months pregnant. I'm guessing you can have all kinds of thoughts. So you have to try and take a step away and think about, you know, what this is going to bring.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that was the hardest thing. It's like IVF as well. And obviously when we spoke before about, you know, the journey, and, you know, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, you know, I know it's not always, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy. You can have, you know, people week in, week out, as fertility issues are commonplace now, and it's awful. But I think same-sex relationship, you have to, you know, what are my options? I want to become a mum, I want a family. How do I go about this? And I think you kind of have to take a lot of the almost the logic and the reasoning and the emotion out of it, and just think, how do I get my little baby? How do I make that happen? And I have to say the process with Cryos, that the information you get was amazing. And to be sat here now with little Milo, and obviously I'm, you know, he's happy and healthy, and I'm delighted. I think also the other thing that I had was, I think when I mentioned before, I went through a few cycles and I froze the embryos, so I actually had another donor. So I've got basically 2 more embryos left frozen. They are both with different donors, so I could have a sibling for Milo, but the other embryo is with another donor. So that's complicated as well, I guess. But it's because they have a limit, obviously, on the amount of live pregnancies they can have in a set country.
Right.
So with the HFEA, so you have to, that's monitored as well. So obviously live births are recorded, and then if they reach that particular quota, they can't have any more. And again, that's, you know, if you really think about that, it could freak you out. But I think you just have to stick, don't you, to what your goals and your dreams. And that's what I want to happen. I want my little baby. How do I get there? And obviously now delighted with the process and delighted with everything, and Cryos were amazing.
And obviously you spoke about how you get the baby pictures when you find the donor over there. What other personal information do you actually get given when you choose?
Yes. So again, that's again with the Danish sperm banks. I found the information was quite thorough. You could get a lot, and I know with same with America as well. You can probably get a bit more information, but I just felt like I wanted probably to be a bit closer to home. And I think because it's a bit more commonplace in Denmark, it just felt the natural fit for me. And I, you know, the sort of idea of trying to have a blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy was quite a little sort of Scandi boy was quite appealing as well. But yeah, you get things like, you get sort of personal backgrounds, you get sort of like interests, hobbies, that type of thing. You get education. You get bit of sort of history, you know, sort of education, school, what they're doing, currently doing now. That you get all their health checks, their background, but then you get sort of family history as well in terms of any hereditary disease, anything like that. And of course, it's all really strict. It's all really stringent in terms of the checks. So you know that, you know, they're only donating if they've been cleared and tested and everything's fine. So I think that was really nice. And like I said, just that profile at the end, I think was really nice. So it's not just, you're not just seeing a name, some statistics. You're actually, you know, the handwritten note was really sweet to me. And you can also choose, obviously, the very important thing that people, you know, need to be aware of is you can choose anonymous or non-anonymous. So when your little baby grows up and is 18, they have then the choice, if you want, for them to reach out and find out who their father is. And I've given Milo the option. So in his handwritten note, Folky, the donor, my donor, says, you know, if you want to reach, I can't promise I'll be the same person I am now, but if your child wants to reach out to me when he's older, I'll be happy to meet and chat. And yeah, that's really confusing. And again, I haven't even really thought about that because that is a long way off. But yeah, I didn't want to have Milo asking me, you know, when he gets older, and I can't give him any answers, and he doesn't have the option of even trying to meet his dad. So that was quite important to me as well. And of course, that narrows it down. A lot of donors don't want that. They might be doing it for commercial. They might be trying to help. Might be doing it for commercial reasons. But some of them will not want to be sought out when you know the baby becomes a man or a woman.
That was a really big question that we had come in, actually. So I think other people will be really interested to hear that is an option over there.
Yeah.
But like you say, I'm guessing it's different where in every country the laws will be different.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think I think there was probably about their donors. I think it was probably about a 50-50 split in terms of the donors who were anonymous and who were non-anonymous. But for me, it meant more to know that he was happy to be contacted. That meant, you know, it wasn't just here, I'm doing this probably because I'm getting some money and that's it. That was really important to me, that criteria. And as I said, I think it's probably about half and half in terms of the donors who supply to Cryos.
And you mentioned how there's a quota on the live births that are allowed to happen from the one donor. Like, is there anything stated around if Milo wanted to find out if he did have siblings from that donor? Like, how does that work?
No, I don't think that's because I think that's an issue, really, isn't it? Because I just know that there's they can't have unlimited births, obviously, you know, around the world, because that's strange, and that's bizarre when you think about it, that he does have, that he probably will have other siblings, other half brothers and half sisters, but that's not, you can't explore that.
No.
We wouldn't want to, and I think that's, you know, you've got your little family and you're the unit, but to know that he can seek out his dad when he gets older is a nice thing.
No, I agree. So you mentioned how you're quite good at taking the emotion out of it because, you know, of your personal situation. For people who maybe do feel a bit more, obviously you're still emotional, but people who are going through it for a very different reason, like, do they offer like the emotional support, and is there more of a counselling element involved for people who maybe need to speak about the thoughts they might have afterwards? Like you were saying, at 8 months you probably thought, oh gosh, like, you know, you were having different thoughts to what you had when you first went for the sperm donor. Like, is there any support there for that?
No, I don't. To be honest, I didn't seek it out, and I think it was more, it did feel very transactional for me, and I think that's kind of what it is like. I know that it's something that I've sort of talked about a lot with IVF in the past, and I think it's getting better in that they're not counselling from the IVF point of view. But I think in terms of the sperm donor and the sperm banks, no, not really. It's literally, what do you need? What are you looking for? Purchase it, and and try and create your sort of dream family. And I'd probably say that's something that I would agree that probably needs to happen more as well, in terms of just generally in everything to do with fertility. I think there's a huge emotional impact on people's lives, and I think it probably does need to be better. So I'd say that across the board.
Yeah, well, I know you mentioned the aftercare element last time. That's why I wanted to ask about it for this particular process. I know we've been speaking to Eloise from the Fertility Help Hub, and she has pulled together some excellent advice, which we've got the link to on our stories now, actually, as a blog post. And she's been through the sperm donor process with her husband. So, you know, she's explained it from her point of view, but also she's got just a whole host of resources for people who are looking for alternative ways to conceive. So please visit that, anybody who wants to find out more.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But for you, Sarah, what would you say to anybody watching now that is keen to find out more and explore this, but they're just nervous to even, you know, look into it?
I think I just think keep the bigger picture in mind. You know, and it is, and I say, you know, I've had quite a few people reach out, you know, after the story live we did last time, and obviously things that I've posted. Quite a few people have reached out to me, single mums or people going through IVF or even the sperm donor. And I hope people watching this, and obviously when you repost and share, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm more than happy to sort of chat and offer advice. And I just think I'd love to help. And I think that's one of the big things through this journey, to feel that when you're going through it, you do feel very alone. Yes, you've got your support, but it's really not easy. The whole thing is, you know, IVF's not easy. Sperm donor isn't easy. Sometimes same-sex, you know, trying to create a family in same-sex relation, none of it's easy. But it's keeping in mind that, you know, the big picture is what you're trying to achieve. You know, you want a family, you want to become a mum, and I think it's maintaining that, really, and just keeping the end goal in sight, and not kind of getting bogged down with this is hard or this is weird or it's difficult, because it's not easy. But it's also amazing to think that you can create a life and opportunities by doing this. And as I said, Choirs were fantastic, Care Fertility were brilliant, finding the right clinic, the right donor bank, fully recommend Choirs' services, and then you're on your way to sort of having that little dream family. So just keep positive and keep that bigger picture in mind. Don't get too bogged down with the, you know, as I said, because looking online and choosing profiles, because you could tell it, you know, like you could talk to someone in the dating world, couldn't you? People who've been on Tinder or Hinge or Match or whatever, and when they're there with their, you know, their wife or their husband, and they're, you know, scrolling through all those profiles, they don't think they're ever going to get there. But just believe and have hope that you will.
Well, what a lovely note to end on. And obviously you're living proof that, you know, it can happen. And I'm sure that you would say you'd go through it all again to have Milo.
I would, absolutely. It's been, you know, amazing. And I think to look back, you know, as I said, I've got his little profile stored in my phone, and, you know, to see him, he's got the same button nose and his little eyes, and, you know, and I looked at Folky's baby pictures so many times and wondered, you know, with my little boy, who would he look like? And, you know, and the Folky was, he studied psychology as well. And sort of, you know, psychology has been a big interest of mine. So, you know, looking at some of his interests and hobbies and thinking Milo hopefully could follow suit. And yeah, it's just lovely, and it's amazing, and it's very special. And yeah, it might not be the traditional route, but I think I said to you last time, what's normal nowadays anyway. It's, you know, I've got my little boy and couldn't be happier with him.
Oh, amazing. Well, that's why we want to have these chats as well, because we're very aware that there is definitely not one size fits all. And as we say, this is why we want to have these conversations, because we just feel like they're just not spoken about enough. So hopefully it's helped people. For anybody that missed any of this, we're going to be posting it on our feed as always. We'll type this up and it'll be on our website within a few weeks. And also, as I mentioned before, Eloise at the Fertility Help Hub, she's provided us with some amazing advice. So please do give our website a follow, to have a look there, see what she has to say. And as Sarah said, she's happy to help anybody that's got any questions as well, which is amazing. Thank you, Sarah.
No, look, I'd love to. And I think it's great that you're shining a light on issues such as this as well. I think it's brilliant. So the more we can do that, the better. So it's fantastic. And yeah, I mean that. Anyone that does want to reach out or chat or just get any advice, I'd love to help.
Thank you. Well, you enjoy the rest of your holiday. Well, good night. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.